Today we'll be going over the newer finds for update 8.7 for Fire Emblem Heroes. This month you can pick up newer weapons for Galle, Mustafa, Kris, and Shinon. This will be part 1. In part 2 we'll talk about Summer Ingrid. Also, for July we have remixes for Mythic Knot and Ashura. We'll cover all the new upgrades for everyone and discuss general playstyle and build ideas. First up we have Galle, a heroic ground lance flyer who does have generally lower speed than most. He has high base HP, good defense, and not the worst starting res. Galle got a new weapon called the Wyvern Lance. 16 might, this weapon inflicts -5 attack and defense and the guard status on foes within 3 rows and 3 columns, centered on Galle. In addition, those foes also get hit by a free follow-up attack in combat. For Galle himself, he heals 7 HP after a fight. Wyvern Lance at base is an attack and defense Crux weapon with the added guard effect and self-healing. Crux is still somewhat new, so Galle getting access to it as a free-to-play unit is pretty unique. He can give himself and allies a free follow-up if foes are in his range. For the refined part, if foe initiates or has more than 75% HP, Galle inflicts another -5 attack and defense, plus an extra attack and defense debuff equal to 15% of his defense at start of combat. In addition, Galle gets breath type cooldown and neutralizes attack and defense debuffs in combat. Overall, Galle will inflict a lot of attack and defense debuffs, -10 and then more based on that flat defense. He has the special fighter set of cooldown perks and neutralizes debuffs is always solid. Attack debuffs will improve his magical bulk, but Galle gets no extra speed if that was something you wanted. You could try to make Wyvern Rift work, but it's pretty risky. For playstyle and builds, I wouldn't say Galle has a specific best choice, but you got some options with this weapon. He has the ability to stack Crux if you want. The long range debuff stacking is nice, and technically the 2 free follow-ups should stack as well. If you wanted to ferry allies around to use Crux, Galle could run Rain Snap for extra movement or one of the guidance skills for warping. In general, he would like percent DR, so skills like Guard Bearing or Gambit are fine. You could stack HP with boost and squad ace seals. With his breath type cooldown, Galle can get to Bonfire Ignis faster, and of course Emblem Marth would spice things up for say a no quarter instant counter. In general, if you use the new odd defense wave 4, not only do you buff allies, but Galle can combine the tempo effects with his weapon's cooldown perks. It's a solid synergy. If you did want a player phase, you could run odd defense wave with the usual Clash plus Kanto. However, another interesting combo would be Sturdy Impact plus Flow Guard 4. Galle would get a follow-up attack, he could use Flow Guard 4's Scowl effect to uncharge specials, and he then has Guard plus no special charge to prevent charging. I know half of Flow Guard is kind of redundant with this weapon, but being able to combine Scowl plus Guard plus no special charge is pretty powerful. Now, for some other weapons, Galle could run stuff like Close Defense 4 or Attack Smoke 4. Attack and Defense Oath 4 is also nice as a self buffer and you get warping. You could do Distant Counter, but still gotta watch out for strong archers and mages. We have a Attack and Defense Clash Sacred Seal. It's a bit unusual, but if you want more support perks, then I'll throw out their Snag and Link B skills. Since Galle can support from across the map with Crux range, maybe there's a spot for Smite type tactics. Overall, Galle isn't the craziest combatant, but Crux support is something unique for sure. He is also one of the slowest free-to-play lance flyers, so that in itself is a bit unique compared to, say, the 50 other Pegasus Knight options. If you want a bulkier flyer, Galle's a decent option, and he has some support. Our next refinement goes to Mustafa, who's an Axe Infantry demo. Mustafa is one of those kinda low speed Axe fighters, although he's on the slower end to retain more bulk. His new Plegian War Axe states, every turn, if within 2 spaces of an ally, grant plus 60 defense from his field boss and a follow-up denial status to Mustafa and those allies for 1 turn. If he initiates combat or is near an ally, he gains +4 to all stats and a free follow-up attack himself. So, kinda opposite to Galle, Mustafa gets follow-up prevention support. Extra defense from his field boss are nice as well, since we got tons of attack and speed buffers. For his own combat, Mustafa will put together Omnibreaker, very simple. Further refined, if above 25% HP, Mustafa gets another +4 stats, true damage equal to 15% of the foe's attack, and 40% DR for first attacks with an S. In general, +8 to all stats, we got extra defense from his field boss, Omnibreaker, true damage, and 40% DR. These are all pretty basic perks, nothing fancy except the follow-up denial support. If you like speed, Mustafa does get bonus speed. He kinda looks to be a generalist Axe fighter though. Now for builds and playstyles, besides decent team support, Mustafa basically has himself Omnibreaker and 40% DR. Not terrible, but certainly nothing crazy. However, because Mustafa is self-boss and is a bulkier infantry unit, he's in a great spot for the popular Distant Bonus Doubler plus Lagu's Friend build. Both skills are back since Lagu's Friend is on this next summer banner. Mainly in enemy phase setup, Mustafa would want attack and speed field buffs from something like Pledge. He can get DC plus extra buff stacking, and then Lagu's Friend provides extra cooldown into DR piercing specials. It will cut the Refine's 40% DR to 20%, but it also adds some flat DR. Now, if Mustafa can hold out, he has some big burst potential. Pledge can even get something like Ignis to proc as well. Besides Lagu's friend, we sort of just have a mishmash of effects we can combine. With his high base HP, you can stack more with boost A skills or squad A seals, maybe combo with Breath of Life 4. Infantry Pulse 4 can offer more team support though. Maybe you compare that with Tempo 4 for half DR piercing. For some other skills, Unity, Finish, Clash all work for stats. You could stack percent DR with things like Guard 4, Bulwark, or Gambit. Mustafa could run a Smoke 4 or Menace. He won't be the fastest, but technically no follow-up does benefit Ani Breaker. And then for attuned skills, Attack Oath Echo is nice, but Guard Echo is another good pick. Overall, Mustafa got an okay new weapon, but I wouldn't say he's going to be dominating. He's got that awkward speed where technically it can be useful, but any other unit building speed will blow him out of the water, and then no fallout destroys his main combat niches. Maybe if you got Summer Heroid's Frozen status, you could have some fun with speed builds. At the very least, you can play around his weapons support aspects. Next up we have male Kris, and I'm a little disappointed with this one. So, female Kris got a refine a couple months back. Male Kris's refine is the exact same thing. Not unexpected, but should have just included him back then too. Now, for the sake of completion, I will go through this refine again. Feel free to skip ahead, because the only major difference between the Krises is that one's a sword unit, one's a lance unit. They are both infantry, with good speed, balanced defenses. For male Kris, he has the Blade of Shadow, it exerts specials, and if the foe initiates or has minus 75% HP, Kris neutralizes all stat debuffs in combat, he inflicts minus 5 attack speed and defense on the foe, and he gets full tempo effects. For the refine, if above 25% HP, Kris gets plus 4 to all stats, he has 40% DR for first attacks with an S, he deals true damage equal to 20% speed, and heals 7 HP on his own attacks. Blade of Shadow is a decent all-arounder, effectively plus 9 stats and ignores debuffs. You got Slang plus Tempo for cooldown, 40% DR and healing on hit, and some true damage for being fast. Nothing crazy, but as an infantry unit, lots of build options to pair with these skills. It's only been a couple months, so I don't exactly have a ton of new builds to talk about for a unit with the same stats and weapon. As your speedier unit, Kris does want no follow-up, if possible, to deal with the slower follow-up abusing units. Physical no follow can add half DR piercing to every hit, which is nice, and with Slang plus times pulse, you can set up the old Vital Astra build. Finish 4 for extra damage plus healing, and you can use a Sacred Seal of your choosing. If you aren't a fan of percent DR that can be pierced, then the devs also seem to think the Galle Reflexes plus Lagu's friend build is good. That's what's on the brand new Summer Harmonic. The idea of the build is that you have a defensive special, so unpierceable percent DR. You add Lagu's friend's flat DR, and it will also pre-charge GLR right before the enemy attacks thanks to Sling. It also makes the counter have DR piercing. Very powerful setup, with the main downside being lack of speed perks, which might be risky with GLR. If you go this route, you definitely want some speed buffing allies. Now, one new skill male Kris can use is on Speed Wave 4, speed buffs for nearby allies, and if you outspeed you get no follow-up. This is an alternative to, say, Infantry no follow 4. Another new skill that has been released is Attack and Speed Excel, potentially funny as a second flat DR source when paired with Lagu's friend. It's mainly for initiating, but for enemy phase it does work against specials. If you hate instant damage, Breath of Life 4 is now the new counter. It can be used to support the team as well. For some other skills, Boost 4 is good, Potent or Dodge 4 skills are fine, they also disrupt to counter sweep skills. You could use Oath 4 or Pledge for self buffs. Feel free to use cooldown based Sacred Seals to pair with Tempo's no guard. If you can get a guard effect from like Guard Echo, that's also a nice tempo synergy. In conclusion, male Kris and female Kris basically are the same unit, just different color. They have a variety of perks, and stuff like debuff neutralization is really strong. Infantry have lots of options, so very easy to find some skills to mess around with. Last up for part 1 is Shinon. He's a quick colorless infantry archer and the OG Deadeye Master. The double bow has gotten some buffs. 14 might exert specials. If Shinon is solo or next to one ally, he gets plus 5 to all stats, close counter, no guard, and heals 7 HP on hit. Double bow is easier to use, although Shinon still can't be completely surrounded. It is a close counter bow if you meet the condition, and Shinon gets no guard to charge up, plus he heals on his counter. Further refined, if above 25% HP, Shinon gets another plus 4 stats. He inflicts debuffs to attack speed and defense equal to 8, minus the number of allies adjacent to him, times 2. He gets flat DR equal to 20% speed for first attacks, with an S, and Shinon's counter will get empowered by the total damage he reduced. Double bow is very much leaning into the close counter playstyle. Flat DR is nice and is based on speed, so Shinon can be annoying for slower foes. After he gets hit, he empowers his counter, and that attack is going to heal him as well. In terms of stats, Shinon gets +9 to everything to try and tank. He then inflicts -8 to attack speed and defense, but only if he's alone. For every adjacent ally, you're going to lose 2 points of debuffs. Shinon may be friendlier, but not that friendly. Overall, since Faye doesn't want to make CC weapons a common thing, Shinon does have a niche for himself. Will that affect the usual builds though? In general, Shinon's a speedy archer who wants to be mostly alone, although he will tolerate one nearby friend now. For a jack of all trades build, no follow-up is always solid, and tier 4 gives half DR piercing. Shinon's the Deadeye Master, but more piercing never hurts. You can keep Time's Pulse if you want, but if Shinon does get hit, he can charge Deadeye and proc it if he doubles back, thanks to no guard now. Pledge would also work, and it gives self-boss. If Shinon is being a loner though, you could do Insight instead. Now, it won't be as easy to fully buff up, but you could also do bonus doubler 4, since if we're doing close counter, we kinda want as much stats as possible. Shinon can work with the team, but you gotta be a little careful with positioning. Now for another build, if you don't think regular percent DR is safe enough, Shinon could stack more flat DR with Lagu's friend. While hilarious, this actually isn't that bad. He gets a decent amount of defense and res. You can run a 4 cooldown Dragon Fang or Astra, and with no guard, Shinon will charge those when he gets hit. His counter not only is a DR piercing high damage special, but he gets extra true damage for all the damage Shinon reduced. If you want to make the joke funnier, add Emblem Ike. It won't help close counter, but that's okay. For some other pairings for this setup, finish 4 would add extra healing with the Refine. You could do Oddspeed Wave for no follow-up and extra speed in case a follow-up is needed. The Finish Sacred Seal is also great for special focused builds. I would not expect Shinon to be tanking everything for sure, but with some extra support, he could be pretty annoying with all that flat damage reduction. Now, since Shinon is a pretty generalist archer for other skills, you could do things like Remote Sparrow or his innate solo. Low is fine, although you could run a % DRB skill like Nosy Disrupt. Technically, Oath 4 and Pledge are workable, plus any Smoke 4 is solid for mixed phasing. You could try stacking bonus doubler if you want, and then from attuned skills, Guard Echo or Fleeting Echo both offer % DR to pair with this Refine. Overall, Shinon definitely got a fun upgrade. Typically, close counter requires some high investment, but Shinon did bring a lot of extra stats for himself, and he has some solid add-ons like the DRR, the flat DR, the healing, and no guard. He is slightly easier to use in defensive formation, but generally try to keep him alone if possible. If you have a highly invested Shinon, there's definitely some fun to be had. That's going to be it for part 1 of the update 8.7 new refines. Let me know your thoughts and share your own build ideas with everyone. Next in part 2, we're going to talk about Summer Ingrid and then the remixes for Mythic Knot and Ashera. Just a little more going on with those units, which isn't too surprising. Thank you for watching, have fun with your new refines, and I will see you in the next video.